Hey gang, welcome to the Gill Athletics Connections podcast, where we bring you the stories of track coaches from around the world. I'm your host, Mike Cunningham. It is my honor and privilege to bring you the stories of these men and women. This week, I've got Tyler Wingard from Christopher Newport University. Now, if you know Tyler, you know he's actually a bit of an introvert. So doing this kind of outward social media podcast type thing was not easy for him. So very thankful that he would come out of his comfort zone and talk to us about his career, how he got to Christopher Newport, his athletic career, just super, super interesting. And then as we dive in near the end about just how he puts on a track meet with 2,000 high schoolers, indoor track meet, by the way. So I think you'll enjoy it. Had a great time and a blast visiting with him in his facility. Please help me welcome the wise and wonderful Tyler Wingard. As ready as you can be.
Yeah.
So Tyler, we just jump right into it, man. You have what year of coaching is this for you?
It depends on the years you want to count.
Okay.
This is my 20th year as a head collegiate track and field coach, and I think 28th year of coaching, somewhere in that range.
Well, let's go back maybe to the very beginning. It's funny, we were talking about earlier about the passion that track and field coaches have. So where did that passion occur? Because we're actually in Virginia at Christopher Newport, where you're the head coach at, but you're actually from the opposite coast.
Yeah, I grew up in a little town, Gig Harbor, Washington. Got to in that part of the world. Grew up with a pretty famous coach. My dad, Joel Wingard, is a Hall of Fame coach. He's in the Washington State cross country and track and field coaches Hall of Fame, the Tacoma Sports Hall of Fame as well. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I know Gig Harbor, at least in my mind, are they one of the I'm gonna say famous cross country programs? Yeah. Okay. Like always ranked in the nationals.
Yeah.
And,
so yeah, that was.
And that was your dad?
So my dad was a big part of that foundation. All of the Nike national kind of stuff started happening kind of after his retirement. But one of his athletes coached with him for about seems like forever. Patty Lay took over the program when he retired, and then the small world that track and field is. One of my rivals, triple jump rivals in high school, Kevin Eager is heading up the program now and stuff. So
wow.
So it's that's the environment I grew up in, and been going to Washington State High School state championship meets since I was real little.
Since you could walk, basically, probably,
yeah.
Were you one of the kids that did they bring you out to the track for practice and stuff when you were a little kid?
Yeah, they
playing
were
in the sand pit.
Yeah, there were babysitters, when parents needed a night out and
wow.
stuff. Yeah,
I didn't. Here's been the funnest thing about doing this podcast now. We're about 7 episodes in, and a lot of them have been long time frame. You and I have known each other for 20 years. Yeah. It's funny. A lot of the guys that I've known for a long time have been through coaches education as well, which is where we maybe probably started our friendship. Yeah. And but always learn something new about these guys and gals that are just it's amazing. I never knew that about your dad. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So you mentioned a rival triple jumper. I know you as a javelin thrower.
Yeah.
Were you a triple jumper as well, or?
So I actually started out as a distance runner.
Of course, dad, right?
Yeah,
everybody maybe does.
Yeah. So my dad was a distance runner, still training for marathons and stuff. And as I was growing up, and was part of there was a good active running club that he was a part of, and we used to have like Saturday fun runs around Fort Steilacoom Lake out in Tacoma.
Just kind of the culture there.
Yeah. And it was cool. We had little kids races and stuff, and they'd keep track of our time. So if you got a PR, you got a certificate, and that was always a cool thing. So that was played soccer, played baseball, played basketball, everything growing up. And by the time we got to middle school and started doing competitive, competing for the team and so on, everybody else was faster than I was, springier than I was, all of that, and I was still pretty solid in the distance events. But I had a middle school teacher who was an assistant coach for my dad, actually, who decided to teach his PE class the triple jump. And so he explained it to us and showed us through, and you know, I've always been good at being able to kind of hear, see, and picture what it is, and then get my body to replicate it.
Right.
So he said, you know, these even phases, and so I went bam, bump, 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 even phases, and because they were even phases, I outjumped everyone else by like 2 or 3 feet.
Right, because everybody else did the very
big
first one.
It's
right,
like
right.
this might be a good event for me. so that got me into that, and that was definitely my passion through high school.
The triple jump?
Triple jump, yeah.
When did you pick up javelin? Because again, that's how I know you as a javelin.
So, other than just kind of playing around with it as, I always had a strong arm, you know, in baseball and stuff. Played around with it, but never quite connected with it in high school. Did a couple of decathlons. And,
you look like a decathlon. Yeah,
then in my sophomore year in college, I convinced my coach to let me do a decathlon over spring break.
Okay.
And he kind of shrugged and was like,
where is this? Where
Occidental College down in Los Angeles.
In LA. Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah. Division
3.
Division 3. And how'd you get from Gig Harbor down there?
Actually, a letter from the football coach. It was the first recruiting letter I got, and when I looked into what Oxy had to offer, it was everything I was looking for, and pretty much every letter and pamphlet that came in afterwards was like, "Is this any better than Oxy?" And it's like,
"Oh wow, they were the anchor, they were the comparison." Interesting.
So I never really wavered from that once I found them. So
no, there's a lesson there about recruiting and getting your stuff in the kid's hand and
get it out early.
Impressionable. You know, and you know where you talked about how long you've coached, so there's no secret about your age. It was before the internet as well.
Paper was the only way to go.
Yeah, you weren't following them on Instagram,
right?
So sophomore year, you did a
decathlon.
So you were primarily a triple jumper.
Yeah. But I played around with the others and stuff, and again, I've been around it since I was little, so I had a good visual sense of what all the events were gonna look like, and had played around with them to some extent.
Right. Yeah, you grew up going to the shot put area and just turning around.
So I threw a highly impressive, I think like 116 feet in the javelin in the competition.
I was on pins and needles. I don't know if it was javelin or discus. Pretty good decathlon discus though for
it wasn't that.
It's a tough event for those guys.
So we got out of that, and I did well enough. My claim to fame in that one was we had a senior who was right on the edge of qualifying for nationals and in the decathlon. And we got down to the 1500, and he needed to run about a 4:45, that range to qualify, which was faster than he'd run before. But I did it quick. It's like, well, that's a 5-minute mile. I can do that. It's like, just stick behind me. I'll take care of you.
Wow.
Hit. I don't know how I did this, but I hit even 75 splits for the. He kept trying to go around. It's like, no, we're fine. Stay back.
With me.
He listened. He stayed behind me.
Wow.
Towed him through the first 1,200 meters. Then he kicked down to a whatever, the 4:30, 4:39, whatever, and got his qualifier.
And he made it.
And on to nationals. So
that's like. Who was it? It was Ashton Eaton and the Duke.
Curtis Beach.
Curtis Beach, yeah. We said the world record. Yeah. That's you're Curtis Beach in this.
I'll take it.
I thought you were going to say your claim to fame was this kid was close to qualifying. You beat him.
Yeah,
helped him out.
So I was real proud of that.
What a great teammate, though. Yeah, absolutely.
So that convinced Coach Harvey that junior year I could go ahead and start training for the decathlon, and make that my my event. Triple jump was going well, but I had the opportunity to expand out a little bit and stuff. So,
and not to embarrass you, okay sharing any PRs?
No.
Okay. Very fair. It is internet. We could go look right now.
Fortunately, I'm old enough that most of those marks are pre-internet and they won't be found. I do have one world record that I'll lay claim to, potentially, but
a world record.
That's a teaser. Oh yeah. And I did get it confirmed by a former Soviet pole vaulter and Olympic level coach and stuff. But I digress.
So you officially go into decathlon.
Officially going into the decathlon, body could not handle it. Blew out my hamstrings and and got stuck. Got left in January my junior year.
Now, was that because did something change with the coaches? Like, oh, now he's a decathlete, he has to do X, Y, Z?
No, it was. I've always had flexibility has never been my strength. My hamstrings and lower back have always been a little bit dicey.
Sure.
And it was just practice day that I tweaked it a little bit in a December decathlon. Beauty of going to school in Southern California,
Yeah,
you can
that's
do
a good point,
decathlon in December.
Yeah.
But tweaked it a little bit in the pole vault, shut down on that, and then getting ready for a decathlon in late January. Had a high jump session, stood around a little bit too much over there, transitioned over the hurdles, and first full speed run over a hurdle and hamstring tore.
Wow.
So
your season's done. Junior.
Well, it was. We had a phenomenal athletic trainer who took really good care of me and stuff. So I was able to get a few jumps in during the course of the season. It turns out, but I kept kind of re-injuring and so on. But in the short term, I wasn't running, wasn't hurdling, wasn't doing anything else. So I was just throwing.
Right. Okay.
Working with shot, discus, javelin.
Right.
And then our had a little inter squad meet, and through like 157 off of a couple of crossovers, and the coach was like, "So I guess you're a javelin thrower."
What happened there?
now."
Yeah. Wow.
And that's actually the event that I qualified for nationals for both my junior and senior year.
Oh wow.
And senior year I missed nationals by a couple centimeters in both the long and triple jump. So but made it in the javelin.
So you didn't do decathlon at all your senior year? It was like,
yeah,
okay,
we got smart after that.
Yeah. It was a good idea. Well,
nice try, but now that we know that there's 3 events that you can do, we'll focus on those.
What'd you end up getting your degree in?
Mathematics.
Yeah.
So
right.
yeah, mathematics. Minored in physics. I was initially trying to be a double major in math and physics. And
what was the impetus to be math?
Well,
I could
say yeah.
What was Dad? Was he a
math teacher?
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Okay.
Which it wasn't even. I didn't even grow up like, oh, I want to be like my dad.
Right.
But my dad was so good at what he did, and had such a rich life as a result of it. It just why wouldn't you?
You just kind of naturally
and my mom's a little disappointed because she was an English teacher and so she'd always
that's complete opposites
there. It's
there,
like,
math
why aren't you reading more? It's like, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But I did minor in philosophy as well. And
did you really?
Yeah.
Wow. Did you think you wanted to be a track coach?
For as long as I could remember, I was going to be a high school teacher and coach, and that's what I was going to do. And in college, one of my professors kind of put the PhD bug in my head, and it sounded easy, so why not?
I've never heard anybody say that, honestly. Good Lord.
I was rudely awakened at Stony Brook on that this is another level. There's a little more dedication that I need to.
So accidentally you got your undergrad and went to
Stony Brook Long Island for master's, actually in the PhD program for mathematics. But,
okay. So how did you, again, you're a West Coast guy, Washington and LA, and now you just go all the way across the country.
Have you ever heard of Occidental College?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have?
Yeah, I know every college in the country. Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't know Occidental College has no idea. It's like, is that a dental school? Is that a veterinary school? What are we doing here? So it was a phenomenal school that has a reputation amongst those who know it.
Right.
And I wanted to be able to say, this is where I went to school, and have people go, ooh,
And you chose Stony Brook.
Well, I chose that part of the world.
Okay, that's
but I was looking at the the Columbias and Yales and stuff like that, and actually in Princeton actually got into my radar because of the area of mathematics that I was most interested in. I was doing my honor studies in and so on.
What area? I didn't know there was areas.
So essentially topology and four manifolds and differential geometry, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all right.
Shaking your head.
If you can see right over my head. I can do this. I can do the bobblehead. Yeah. Well, let's move on from that topic.
Well, and one of my professors who became my honors advisor, his son went to Princeton, so he had some connections and understanding out there and stuff. But
you go to Stony Brook.
But I went to Stony Brook because it actually fit a lot better with what I was looking for.
Okay.
But the Javelin was had bitten me.
All right.
And I was still brand new at the event and had some early success, and
all right.
it's like I kind of want to keep going with that. So I was trying to continue training for the Javelin,
Okay.
on my own for the first time with that. Helping coach the
I was
the
going to ask
team
you,
there.
GA in?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And it was GA in the department, but just volunteering to help out with a couple of javelin throwers.
Your academic
team.
GA. Oh yeah, I meant
Yeah.
for the track team. So you're just volunteering.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And that balance, I found I had a lot of fun out throwing javelins, and I really enjoyed the teaching part of my role in the mathematics department.
Okay.
But the studying was starting to get to the point it's like I just didn't have the same interest at that level. So
Okay.
my long-term plan of being a teacher started kicking in a little bit more. I was like, okay, that's really where we're headed.
Right.
And so finished up my master's there.
Okay. Master's in
mathematics.
Mathematics. Okay. All right.
They had a system where they had a minor to go as well with their master's degree. So I minored in education to kind of set up.
Sure.
And then got a job teaching back in Bellevue, just outside of Seattle. And again, a small world. One of the other teachers there was one of my teammates at Occidental College.
Oh, wow.
He was the head cross country coach. So they hired me on and offered me the head track and field position as well.
In teaching.
So teaching math and
Right.
physics and coaching the track and field team and assisting one of my high school or my college teammates with cross country. And I was like,
this is it.
Dream job.
Right.
I just got it.
Right.
Got to, it was a small school, about 550 students. And second year we had 66 kids on the track and field team. So I was
Over
pretty,
10%. You would know the actual percent of the kids in the school were on the track team.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was pretty proud of being able to build that, and that's kind of been since I've gotten into the recruiting side and coaching at the college level. I've been good at being able to build pretty sizable rosters and full full depth, full spectrum teams, and which is again, given my background, starting as a distance runner, finishing as a thrower, I've run full spectrum, and I truly enjoy all of the events and all the event areas, when I got my college coaching start, again, still training in the Javelin, looking when I moved back to Gig Harbor, Tacoma area, was looking for a place to train. Pacific Lutheran University, my brother went to school there. They had a track. I knew the coaches well enough. My Kevin Eager, who's now coaching at Gig Harbor, was an assistant coach there.
Okay. So that was the first college coaching job.
Yeah. Well, actually, I just got permission to train there for a year.
Oh, okay.
And then after that year, their javelin coach left, and they said, "Hey, would you like to coach the javelin throwers?" And
you said yes before they got the sentence finished.
Well, I did do the the calculation in my head a little bit. It's like, okay, I come out here 3 times a week for free. I could come out here 5 times a week and they'll pay me.
Right.
I got this.
Now that's a math problem. I can understand.
So that that got me started. Focused on the javelin for a couple of years, and I had inherited just a tremendous group in there, and got some good improvements out of them, and coached a 225-foot thrower, and so that was fun.
Yeah.
I had a 190 something PR going into it, so I felt like I had something working there.
Yeah. And we know each other, and you were way involved in Coach's Ed for USATF and such. Was Coach's Ed coming in at this point at all?
So I'd did my level 1s when I was first started coaching high school.
All right.
My dad had gone through, and he was one of the early group to go through
level
level 2s and stuff.
Old school, like Joe Vigil days?
Yeah,
like the original.
I think he did his level 2. He did down in at BYU. So, and that was either, I can't even remember whether it was late 80s or early 90s that he was doing, but
that'd be, I think late 80s was when
so he was definitely in the early
story
group.
of the 4, I think it was 4 guys that met up somewhere in a hotel and they just wrote the whole curriculum, man. Yeah. So Vigil is always the only name I can always remember, but there's some other like the other 3 guys are like big time guys. Name slips me.
So I mean that was always education. Obviously, was always the big thing. So as I was getting into coaching, it's like I was doing that. I was going to the coaches clinics, for the for the high schools, and while I was coaching at PLU is when I did my first level 2. It was at University of Washington, so convenient enough.
And would you do it in? Was it segmented like it?
Yeah, actually, I did. I ended up doing throws. I really going into it because I was at the stage where I decided that I wanted to be coaching full time.
Okay.
I left the high school. I was coaching community college, or teaching community college, and then coaching on the side with that, and training and all the rest.
Right.
But made the decision that coaching is what I really wanted to do. I wanted to do it full time. The
switch flipped, and
okay. And
I'm all in on this side of the career. Yeah. Okay.
So I started figuring out what that was going to take. Knew that I'd coached at the high school level, coached at the college level a little bit, and had a lot of the field events pretty well covered. I hadn't been a head or directed a cross country program. It was like, talking to my dad, I was like, should I do my level 2 in endurance?
Right.
Get that on the resume and stuff. And his advice was like, this is a legit program, education program. Go in with what you feel strongest with right now.
Right.
And then you can add the rest of them on as you go through, which was great advice.
Great advice. He
to,
knew the coach's ed system, because that's exactly it, man. This isn't it's not a clinic.
Yeah.
It is an education.
Yeah. And and I'd had good success doing the things that I'd done. Felt like I had discovered a secret or two that was useful. That was really just like all of our secrets. They were stolen from a handful of other people. Butted heads with Larry Judge and John Bill Gadina.
Yeah, the Colonel.
And
is that who taught
that? Yeah, they were teaching the
Larry
the
and Bill and
his name's escaping me, and I feel bad. He did the ironwood throws for a million years and stuff, and he's probably going to listen to this. Like, why doesn't he remember me?
Right. He also was great. I can't think of his name either, but Larry and Bill. Two.
Yeah.
Just iconic teachers, and obviously very successful.
Yeah. So we they challenged me to really think about, well, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? And just because somebody had done them before and stuff,
right? Or
because I did them and my kids were successful didn't mean that my kids were successful because I did some of those things.
And we get very caught up in that, like, oh, I did this and look, I got better.
Yeah,
right. Must be the right thing for everybody.
Yeah, and so it was. it was truly transformational experiences, all, and I ultimately went through and got all 5. So I did.
Is that right?
All of the, all the
sprints, hurdles, jumps, throws,
distance, and multis.
Combined, right.
Combined events. Use the
that's right.
particular term.
That's right.
But just great instructors, great people to draw on, and again, just really challenge the way you're thinking about things,
right.
And but because it's science based, which again was right up my alley.
Right.
The challenges were, you can, there's a way to find out, A to B. We're not, our athletes aren't computers and robots, so you can't just put a program in and they're gonna come out.
Right.
But there
could be a coach if that were
but there is there's certain things, there are cause and effect things that you can track and see if they're really working and know this is too much or this is not enough. And
right. So with your obvious education background and your dad obviously coming from the education, and mom and everybody, did you get into teaching with Coach's Ed, like level 1? Did you ITC?
Yeah. I went through ITC and got to start. Hosted a couple level 1s when I was at Valparaiso. That was my first full-time coaching position.
From PLU to Valparaiso.
To Valparaiso.
Okay. You've literally been coast to coast, and everywhere in between.
And in between. So that was a great situation. It was a program that had just been restarted about 3 or 4 years before I got there. It was at Valparaiso.
Yeah.
It was designed to be a recruiting tool for the university.
Division 1 right off the bat?
Division 1, yeah. They'd already made that transition. That's actually when the track and field, it was a men's cross country and track and field program in the 70s. When they went to Division 1, track and field was dropped off. They added women's cross country, so that had continued through. But
right.
But in the mid to late 90s, they added track and field in again, men's and women's, and I came in 2000 to continue on.
Interesting. I went to the greatest university in the world, Troy University, and very similar.
Yeah.
They had a great track program as they moved from Division III to Division II. As they're transitioning to Division I and 1AA for football, they dropped track, and then I hesitate to say quickly, I think it was a few years, but brought it back as I think they needed it for the conference they were going in or whatever.
Yeah,
and yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So, and again at Valparaiso, it was a recruiting tool.
Mm-hmm.
And that being said, when I was going through the interview process, and I asked the athletic director, it's like, what are your expectations for the program? It's like, well, if you can recruit 6 men, 6 women each year, that'd be great. And I, in my head, I didn't say it out loud. I was like, man, if I only bring in 6 men and 6 women, I'm going to fire myself because
Right, yeah,
it's not going to be very good. So we brought in 32 my first recruiting class, and 40 over 40 the second time, and my third recruiting class was 50 kids.
And maybe I missed this. Did you come into Valpo as the head coach?
Yeah.
How did they hire you as the head? I mean, you
So-
don't have much coaching experience. At
Yeah,
this point.
so I'd had. I mean, I was fortunate. Clearly, our expectations weren't super high.
Sure.
Which
we got
is
to the 6th choice, and there you are.
But
I've
one
been there,
of the
buddy.
things that I was able to do, and I'm very thankful to to the administration and coaching staff at PLU. When I made my decision that I really wanted to coach full time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I put in applications for full-time assistant coaches at a few times in
Right,
years
different
previous,
places,
and
yeah.
just didn't get anywhere. I'd applied. My coach retired at Occidental, so I was like, hey, got to throw my hat in the ring there.
Alum, yeah.
And the athletic director I'd known for a long time. So I called up and was like, so how's the search going? It's like, it's great. And it's like, am I gonna get no. And it's
Hey,
like,
at least
you should see the list of candidates that
Is
we
that
have.
right?
Well, they hired Troy Engel as the
Yeah, okay.
so it's like, and we just talked through, is like, these are the kinds of things that are on their resumes and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful.
Yeah.
I had a few other mentors in the Division I, Division III coaching realm, head coaches for a long time, and kind of pick their brains for what I needed to do. The biggest thing was recruiting. And the role that I had at PLU originally, there just wasn't a whole lot of recruiting. I talked to other javelin throwers, but that was about it.
Right.
But I was given the opportunity to be they built a new title for me, recruiting coordinator for PLU track and field.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
So you can start have that on your resume and actually do it.
And collaborated with my buddy Kevin Eager on kind of a process, how are we going to get information out, how are we going to coordinate it. We built a system in Microsoft Access, to build a database in there that I've used until just a few years ago, grown and expanded and stuff. But we were able to reach out to a lot of kids, got a lot of good response, and were able to track all of it and keep all the coaches online with it. When I went to Valpo, I was basically a one-person recruiting operation. We had a head cross-country coach who was also a law professor at the school, so there's a lot on his plate. So I got in, figured out how I was gonna do it. We sent out a couple thousand letters, signed every last one of them, and got a great return on it. And the next year I got behind on a couple of things and ended up doing it in 2 batches, and didn't realize until after they all went out that I sent out 6,000 letters. So the 2,000 responses we got from that forced me to figure out how to be a lot more efficient.
How big was the school student body at that point?
5,000.
Yeah, so almost 50% of responses back.
So
do they still, I'm coaching now for 15 years. Do they still send recruiting letters?
I do.
There's no media guides anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like
Media
I remember there was a
guides have gone
rule.
away.
It's
Yeah.
all digital now on that.
Yeah.
So it's letters and pamphlets or what?
So, and it's gonna vary with every program,
questionnaires
which is kind of the cool thing now. I mean, there's some programs that are huge on social media, and they draw a lot of attention that way. That's not my wheelhouse.
Sure.
I got away from the paper mailings, the cold letter mailings and stuff for a couple of years, and just watched our recruiting numbers and quality dip.
Interesting.
And so I went back to it and got immediate response, a lot of, and part of it is, sharing secrets, I guess, but part of it is just the novelty, because most kids don't get letters.
Yeah, right.
So when they do,
right,
it's kind of unique, and they actually have something to hold that,
right.
that they can look through and look back at and stuff. Because that's the problem with the social media stream, is that unless you're putting something on there every single day,
right,
you're lost.
Which you should
that
be.
post,
you should be doing more than once a day, by the way. Big social media
yeah,
here. Yeah.
Well, but if it's not on there, it drops down. That's why I don't
right.
like texting so much, is because those messages drop.
Yeah.
Whereas an email sits on my inbox until I get back to it.
Right. Do you? I think one of my Division I friends were telling me about, like, you can text all the time now. Is that same here in Division III? Yeah. That to me would drive me mad. I'm glad I got out of coaching before cell phones became a big deal, to be real honest. Even though I love my cell phone.
And there's definitely a philosophical balance, to have in there. One of the things that when I transitioned from D1 at Valparaiso to D3 here at Christopher Newport, so I was reading through the NCAA handbook and all the legislation, and Division I, you get one phone call a week, and that's it, and you log all your calls, and they're very strict on that.
Right.
So I read through the D3 manual, and it categorizes emails, phone calls, faxes, all that are the same thing. I was like, whoa, I can only send one email a week? So I'm calling around all my D3 coaching friends, like, what am I missing here? It's like, no, you can actually call a kid all week long if you want in Division III. There's no restrictions on that. It's like, interesting.
Yeah.
So, but the more I thought of it, it's like, I don't, and again, every coach, every program's got to have kind of their own style of how they're going to recruit, and it really should be consistent with how the experience the student athletes are going to have once they get to college.
Right.
If you're all over them recruiting, and then your athletes on campus never see you because you're all over the next recruiting class,
right.
then that's a different environment that they're actually competing for you
in. Right.
And that can cause some dissatisfaction,
absolutely,
and so on. So
how long were you at Valpo?
6 years.
And you built the team up from
probably about 30 to 35 kids when I got there, and we had our rosters were pretty steadily in the 90s.
Wow, so they'd be happy with you. That's a lot of income.
Well, and one of the things I was most proud about it, and we'd have, like I said, I had a preliminary roster, I think 4 years in, of 120 kids that we had some role in bringing to the university, some contact with before they made the decision to come to Valpo. Obviously, not all of them stayed on the team, but I think in the 6 years I was there, maybe a handful of kids who were recruited who transferred out.
Wow.
Whether they stayed on the team or not, they stayed and got their degrees at Valpo. So that was something I was very proud of, and I think it was it was part of, again, just having a sense of the recruiting process and how we're presenting what we have to offer. Is
bring the right kids to that campus.
Yeah, and it matches the experience that they're going to have there. So they didn't come in. It's like, oh, I was expecting this. And the couple of kids who transferred, were lessons that it's like, well, their perception of what we had to offer, I missed some of the things that they thought they were going to have here, or that they needed that we weren't going to be able to provide once they got here. So
it's always interesting to me when you see, and I'll name no names here, but there's plenty of them, of coaches who will spout the, hey, your kid should be choosing the school they want to go to because the coach may not be there, and then they'll leave the job to go to another job and be like, hey, you should totally follow me. They picked that school, not you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, I've had that conversation. I had that especially at Valpo. Again, I was new coach in D1 or whatever, and I was there. I think Bobby and I either left that year or the year before or somewhere there. So all kinds of conversations like, so where are all these players going to go if they're not there? And and I was always like, well, why aren't they? Don't they love IU?
Right.
And it's like, well, or they just love the love the coach. And it's like, and it's like, I'm not, for my programs, the way I'm set up, I'm and especially at Valpo, I knew that was a stepping stone program for me. And the athletic director knew that. I mean, he told me, it's like, this is a stepping stone program when I was coming in, so that, you know, that wasn't hidden I wasn't pulling that surprise on anyone. But you know, there's a truism in coaching. It's like there's never a good time to leave a program,
right?
Because you always have that next group of recruits that you've developed a relationship with, your freshmen that you want to see, your juniors, your rising seniors who are, you know, are going to finish off. Exactly. And you know, so there's always those relationships that you've built and so on. But the reality is, there aren't very many, you know, percentage-wise, there aren't many coaches who stay in the same place for their whole careers.
Right.
And even they're going to retire at some point. So,
Right.
So I had to kind of shift that to, it's like, well, if I do a good enough job while I'm here, then the applicant pool for my replacement is going to be better than the applicant pool when I got here.
Yeah, right.
And if I can do that,
that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
Then, you know, the kids I'm leaving behind, you know, my kids that I'm leaving behind are going to be in good hands,
right.
Because we've made this an attractive place for high quality coaches to come in and teach them even more lessons and, you know, from different perspectives and so on.
So what led to coming out here to Christopher Newport? You came Valpo here, right?
So I was, you know, got to the point where I'd, you know, elevated the program at Valpo, you know, built it up and felt really good about where it was going, but was starting to see is like, you know, now, I mean, we're a non-scholarship program there. And
zero.
You know, well, we had 1.5 scholarships, you know, that cross country got to use. And you know, we're going up against, you know, the rest of the conference, and you know, there were a couple that were kind of poorly funded, but there were a couple that were very well funded in state schools versus us as a private school and so on.
Oh, okay.
And
you're in the Midwest. I mean,
we're in the
there's a ton of schools.
Yeah.
Max schools. And, there's a million schools.
Yeah. So it was, you know, I felt really good about where we're at. We got to the point where we were consistently, you know, fourth, you know, third, you know, right behind the three big schools in the conference that were much better funded than we were, and I especially felt good that all three of those head coaches knew that if they had a bad meet, we were going to get them. You know, we were kind of in that position, and I'm, you know, really proud to say that the year after I left, our women took third at the Mid-Con Championships and so on. So that was really cool to see that they actually, you know, they had the opportunity and they took it when there was that opportunity.
That's cool.
So
I think it's cool that you conceptualize that as a good thing. Like, you know, some people be like, oh man, why didn't they do that when I was there? You know, but you know, that's interesting that you have a lot of positivity towards that.
I mean, they're still my kids. You know, we're still, you know, still very invested in you know, where they were, and it also helped that one of my assistant coaches ended up being the head coach. As I stepped out.
That's cool. Yeah.
So that, you know, that felt good.
There.
And so, you know, but I was at the point where, you know, it was time to take a look at some other options.
New challenge.
The Coach Vince Brown, who was the longtime Hall of Fame coach here at CNU, retired.
You took his place?
Almost.
Okay.
So I applied, got a phone interview, didn't get it that time around. They actually, you know, some things happened and they ended up with an interim coach for a year and then reopened the position the next year. And I reapplied. They remembered who I was, which I took as a good sign. And I lamented to them that I blew my phone interview because they'd asked about hosting meets and stuff, and you know, Valparaiso, we had no facilities to host at the time, and yet in my office at my house, on my board above my desk, I had a list of you know, operations control for hosting meets, national meets or whatever.
And if anybody knows Tyler, this is not a surprise. Of course you did. Of course. So I mean, there's a compliment.
Yeah. So I was explaining to him. It's like, you know, you asked me this question, and I start, you know, just kind of answering it out of my own head.
Right.
When the simplest, shortest answer, and I'm never good at short answers, but the simplest short answer was that, well, I don't have a facility here, but on my bulletin board, I have a list of all the officials' duties, all the stuff that we need to have in place to.
How impressive would that be? They're like, man, this guy doesn't have a facility. He's already thinking there.
And they said, well, we kind of got that impression from you anyway, but that's that's okay. So second time around, I got the job, and this is just a phenomenal university to work for. I got to tour you around the campus today.
Hey, super impressive. You have been great for us for a long time since you've been here, and this is my first time being here. I told you it's a state school, which you told me, which surprised me. It has the feel, and I don't know how. I'm sure that's even fair to say. It has the feel of a private school. It's probably not a great thing to say necessarily, but it's super clean. All the buildings look like brand new.
Well, they are.
The library is amazing.
Yeah.
You were dead on about that. And even one of the more impressive things, it's probably a school that actually, and this is a positive, looks as good or better at night. We drove last night, and just the way the lighting is on the buildings, and it's a cool little campus here. Absolutely,
yeah. It's a ton of fun to have recruits come on campus and let them go through a tour, and then they come to see me. It's like, Coach, this. They don't even have words most of the time.
Right.
It's definitely a plus in the recruiting column on that.
Yeah, it's got to be. There's nothing to hide here. I'll show you anything you want because it's all top of the class. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So it's really, really great stuff, and obviously Coach Brown had a phenomenal program here, and the whole athletics
record board.
Yeah, the whole athletics department has been highly successful, and expects to compete at the national level every sport. So just the quality of coaches, kind of just the mindset, the way that they think about things, and so on. Right. It's just a great environment on that, and we've got phenomenal indoor facility.
Yeah.
It's one of the facilities in Virginia now, but when I got here, it was one of the only facilities. I mean, Tech had their wooden bank track in the in the little side field house. Mm-hmm. Liberty had a track inside of a mall.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
and VMI was still in the pit.
Not Brent Venables. What's his name? The Tulsa.
Yeah.
The Tulsa Center. Yeah, I met him a couple years ago. He was talking about that. Yeah.
So George Mason had a track, and there weren't very many options in this part of the world.
Right.
So everybody came to our track.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Tyler, and I still, until I see it with my own eyes, maybe I'll never believe it. Famous to me anyway, you host high school meets here. You've thrown 1,900 at me at one point. This past December, maybe 22.
Close, just short of 2,200 athletes. 2,200
athletes at an indoor facility too, by the way. So you don't even have the whole 400 meters. 200 meter flat, beautiful track. How do you do that? How do you do it?
So again, it was some of it was built in when I got here.
Were they hosting meets
of
that size?
Well, I don't know if they weren't quite that big before. I the first two high school meets I hosted here, our December winter frolic. We had 1,400 athletes competing in that meet.
This is right off the bat, like your first year?
Yeah. So the second meet I'd hosted, third meet, because I hosted a conference championships when I was at Valpo somehow. That's a totally different story. But we hosted a collegiate meet. The next week we had our high school meet. So my second meet was 1,400 athletes competing in here. My third meet was 1,800 athletes. And part of the reason that those were so big was that Vince Brown, probably to his greater wisdom than I had restricted entries and the teams who were invited in and kind of made coaches. They had to choose between one meet or the other, and coming in, I was a new guy. I didn't have those relationships. I hadn't had relationships to build, so I was like, I'm just going to take the restrictions off. Right. And floodgates open. Yeah. And so we had two really, really big meets. We had great official staff. Sure. There was, I'd been going to meets for a long time, and our is a 1 or 2 person operation working the timing system and so on. We had like 5 who and it was like, well, this is how we do things. It's like, why do you have so many people? And then I saw how big those meets were and how smoothly they moved. It's like, oh,
cool.
that's why we have all those. But we got lit up on Milestat, the Virginia version of the Mile Split Network, going into that second meet, and all this like, this meet's completely out of hand. We're not getting out of there till 1 a.m. They're just doing this for the money. They don't really care about the athletes, all that kind of stuff. Just comment after comment after comment. It's like, this is why I don't read this stuff.
Right.
And so we, went through, ran the meet. We restructured the facility a little bit to allow things to be a little bit more efficient and stuff. But it went really smoothly, and for the dozens of comments ahead of time about what a disaster it was going to be, there was one comment after the meet. It's like, well, that wasn't so bad.
Is that right?
Like, victory.
We did it on the internet. That is victory. Yeah.
So
like, how many the most common events with like a lot of people are like your 60s, your long and triple jump, maybe your shot put or something like that. How do you flow through? It's got to be hundreds of like long jump, triple jumpers and stuff like that, which take time because you got to rate the pit and all that stuff. Yeah. How do you
so it's
have that chaos
after that first hit that first year? We've gotten a lot better at getting the team to own the meet. So our team,
your athletes, right?
So we've got a great set of officials. We have certified officials at every venue, at least one at every venue, and usually two. So we've got good quality people, running all that through, and then we've got our team, doing all the raking the pits, pulling the tape measures, returning the shots, moving blocks, moving hurdles, all that kind of stuff. And we've really gotten them to buy into this is an experience we're creating that nobody else can do.
Right.
And the close to 2,200 athletes that we had in here this past December, we ramped the team up, and this was the end of finals week for our kids.
Oh wow!
But they came in, their energy was up. They kept things rolling. And again, we ran a really smooth meet. Everyone walked out. I was like, that was tremendous. We did have, and again, we have the capacity to be able to do this. We moved some of the slower sections of the 3,200 and the 1,600 meters outdoors.
Okay, right.
And it's Virginia, so we had great weather for it. Temperatures were fantastic.
Yeah.
And then we had the 1,900 for a one-day meet in January.
Right.
And again, we moved some of the distance races sections outdoors to run out there, but we put the music on, we had the lights on, we had so there's all kinds of hype
just
out
thrown
there.
outside. Like, you were still part of the meeting, even though you weren't indoors.
Yeah, and we tried to hype, got that hyped up as best we could, and had tons of PRs out there, and more great competition going on inside. I've got a big enough team. We've got about 80 plus on the roster.
Okay.
So they were able to kind of shift through, so they weren't all working 13-hour days straight. They were working each other out to keep the energy up and move and like I said, I mean it's something that our officials are excited about, that they can do this.
Right.
And we've got a great, and the underside of it, our housekeeping and facility staff crush it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's about 2 times I think during the whole day on either one of those meets where someone came up and said, "Hey, the bathroom's out of," or whatever.
Right.
To have that many people, crowd through there and never have those kinds of issues.
Didn't even think about that aspect. I'm thinking of the logistics of the meet. Yeah, the restroom type thing. Your vendors,
our parking crew outside, moving people around, keeping buses from getting all tied up.
Right.
And
buses.
stuff.
Right. So you mentioned about like taking some of the sections of the mile and 2 mile outdoors. What other kind of innovative type things? Last night you were talking about for the 60s, the starting block kind of coordination dance that you have to do. Yeah.
So we actually started buying the Gill Fusion blocks several years ago and love them. And because of those high school meets in particular, I was like, well, we need to have 2 full sets.
Right.
So we've got 16 of them. So we've trained our athletes to train the high school kids, and that includes all the freshmen who were there at their one of their first meets or whatever. So trying to figure blocks out. But we've got our crew there. And say, all right, heat 1, your blocks are set at the 55 meter start line. Heat 2, your blocks are set at the 60 meter start line. So they're all getting that done while they're through. Heat 3 is standing in front of heat two. So when the gun goes off and Heat 1 takes off, Heat 3 picks up the blocks, their blocks,
right.
brings them back. Heat 2 brings their blocks up. They're already set. They just have to get them far enough back from the line.
Right.
Heat 3 starts setting up their blocks. Heat 4 moves in front of them, and we just get them cycling through.
How coordinated do you have this for those Heat 3 athletes? Like, are they all going in one circle back around?
We had
Heat 2, or do they just get behind
I honestly, I don't have time to, and I don't spend a lot of time back there because I know it's working and stuff.
Sure.
We have a gun firing every 60 seconds.
Wow.
So even for the hurdles.
Right.
So it just gets full. You know, for our 300s and 500s, we have a 200-meter track, so the start line's on the far corner.
Yeah, you have that added complexity to it. That's right.
When it's by the time the race is finished, our finish line group was good enough they could corral them off the track so that they're coming across the line. The camera operators say, "Yep, save those." Flag goes up, guns fired. They already had them, on the line, ready to go. So there were a couple of times where the flag was just ruffling as the gun went off, and my finish line crew was still corralling kids off of the track so that they weren't in the way as the next group came through.
Can you think of anything else that you've been doing, like with the long? Like I think of the trouble areas, like the long and triple and the shot of getting the shots back or anything.
Actually, it's just letting I get to coach up my athletes as the work crew. So they're the ones who have to move the fastest.
Right. What's your role during all this?
Just troubleshooting and honestly, both of these meets, other than making sure that there was, I spent as much time, moving cash out of cash boxes from the admission counter and things like that, and making sure we had enough 1s and 5s and all that, and just hanging out with some of the coaches in the field events and talking about their kids and stuff like that.
So you do get a chance to do that too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So because the kids are just like, hey, and you use their self-interest too. It's like we've got 10 flight whatever it was of the shot put.
Right.
Like every second counts. If you guys keep your energy up and keep moving through here, we're done an hour earlier.
Right. Yeah. What did you say last night? If you added 30 seconds or something like that, it adds 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With when we've got hundreds of races that were put together and hundreds and hundreds of throws and jumps that we're measuring.
Right.
We have minimum marks and stuff that helps a little bit with that, but still measuring the first legal mark and that kind of things, because we never want, because we know our meets are in December and January, so they're really early in the season.
Right.
They're big meets, and so there's a lot of energy, but it's also an early meet.
Right.
So we still have athletes that are learning how to deal with all that stuff. And I'd hate to send a kid home in a December meet without a mark because you weren't good enough. It's like so we're everybody walks out with a mark. Everyone walks out with a performance, and we do our best to make sure that they walk out with a good experience, and we coach up the coaches in the coaches meeting so they know what's going on.
Do they have to work the meet?
No.
Oh wow! No. So because you're kids, you're athletes, and obviously with that kind of controlled chaos, safety has to be paramount because you got a lot of things going on with track and field. How has that been?
I inherited a meet operations leader when I first got here. Who was a type A + personality, and we are tremendously over-engineered for crowd control and things like that.
Yeah.
Most indoor meets, there's some flags around the timing crew at the finish line,
right.
and otherwise, beware. You're at a track meet. Heads up.
Right.
So we have windscreen to set off, on both sides of the straightaway. Now we've got it going all the way around the inside of the track. We've got the high jump area is roped off. So there's
your facilities crew setting this up.
Yeah,
you do have the facilities crew.
And my coaching staff pitches in, so we're not 100%. We just hand it off to somebody else, but we get a lot of help, and we turn. This is also our competition basketball facility. This coming weekend we've got a 2-day indoor field hockey tournament that's going on Friday and Saturday. They finish up at 9:00. We have a meet on Sunday. So we're going to turn the facility over from 4 or 5 field hockey courts to a track and field meet.
Wow.
And the way our crew works, and knock on wood, but we'll start working it a little bit after 9 o'clock, and by midnight it'll look like a first-rate track and field facility. So
you don't get that done without a first-rate facilities crew that takes pride in what they do and gets the job done. Man. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
So, lot of support. I mean, that's the thing, and like I said, you don't think about the housekeeping staff that's got to is collecting all the garbage and stuff, and then 2 hours after the meet's done, the facility's clean and ready for the next day. And that's we just have great support on that side, and none of the stuff that we do happens without that.
Right.
It's people taking a lot of pride in the work that they do and
cool.
the results that they can put together.
Well, it's cool to have that along with an athletic department that does choose excellence over mediocrity and pushes each other and has high expectations. We rise to the level of our expectations, and some people don't have high expectations, and you can tell. So that's cool. And you've been here 20.
This is my 14th year here.
14th year. How long? You here forever? Is this going to become Tyler Wingard University one day?
The names I would have to overcome to put my name on anything here are pretty huge names. So this is a great place, and when I came here, my expectation was this is a career position, and
awesome.
this is where I'm going to be, and
it definitely fits you. Again, knowing you for a while, this is your university type of thing. Yeah, and you've obviously had great success here, and put your fingerprint on what they've done here. After replacing a legend, it's not like you came into building a program from new like out of Valpo. This this program, look at the school records, man. There's some pretty impressive school records. Inside joke, except for that men's high jump indoor. We'll tell that story one day.
Sorry, Joseph.
But hey, man, really appreciate you. Exactly. Can't say thank you enough for your time and forthrightness here. It's really cool to see the different ways people not only get into coaching, but how they get it to their current position, and how I'll say lucky, but we make our own luck about how you get your first full-time job, kind of job was right as a head coach, and obviously made your mark there, and now a head coach at a really preeminent institution here on the East Coast, man. You've done a great job.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Man, that was super interesting. So thankful again for Tyler's time and really going over, again, just the intricate details that have to occur for a 2000 high school track and field meet. My mind explodes when I think about that. Again, just a great job, and really appreciate his forthrightness and openness during his interview here. So, hey, if you are still listening to this, if you've made it this far, really appreciate you joining us here on the Gill Athletics Connection podcast. Hope you enjoyed connecting with Tyler as much as I did. Make sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes. And if you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, contact me at hurdle@gillathletics.com. That's right, hurdle@gillathletics.com. In the meantime, hope you feel led to share this podcast on your social media network of choice. What are we using out there? Facebook, Twitter. I don't know how you can do it with Instagram, but maybe you figure it out. TikTok, whatever, smoke signals. Really appreciate that, and hope you join us next time once we once again connect you with another great track and field coach.